The carnival had rolled into town on a chilly October evening, setting up its colorful tents and flickering lights on the outskirts of the small, quiet community. For the residents of the town, it was an annual tradition, a welcome diversion from their mundane lives. The star attraction of the carnival was the Living Wax Museum, a peculiar exhibit that had been whispered about for generations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the carnival grounds, a small crowd gathered in front of the dimly lit entrance to the Living Wax Museum. Its faded sign creaked softly in the breeze, a testament to its age. The proprietor, a gaunt man with piercing blue eyes, greeted the visitors with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The interior of the museum was a maze of narrow, dimly lit corridors, each one lined with wax figures frozen in time. The figures were eerily lifelike, capturing every detail of their subjects' faces and clothing. As the visitors passed by, they couldn't help but shiver at the uncanny realism of the wax figures. Some whispered that the souls of the long-deceased had been captured within the wax, forever trapped in a state of eternal watchfulness. In the center of the museum stood a grand chamber, bathed in flickering candlelight. It was a replica of a Victorian-era sitting room, complete with antique furniture and a roaring fireplace. At the center of the room was the most lifelike wax figure of all, a young woman dressed in a flowing white gown. Her eyes were a startling shade of blue, and her porcelain skin seemed to glow in the soft light. As the visitors gazed upon the wax figure, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Her eyes seemed to follow them, and her lips appeared to twitch in the faintest of smiles. But when they turned away, the figure returned to its stoic pose. Night after night, the visitors marveled at the Living Wax Museum, each time growing more and more unnerved by the wax figures that seemed to come alive only when no one was watching. Footsteps echoed through the darkened corridors, and soft whispers filled the air. Some claimed they heard the rustling of skirts and the distant sound of laughter. One evening, as the carnival reached its peak, a young couple decided to spend the night in the museum, determined to uncover its secrets. They hid in the shadows, their eyes fixed on the wax figure in the Victorian-era sitting room. As the hours passed, the room grew colder, and the shadows seemed to dance. And then, it happened. The wax figure of the young woman slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to move. Her fingers twitched, and her lips curled into a wicked grin. She turned her head to look directly at the couple, her piercing blue eyes locking onto theirs. Terrified, the young couple remained frozen in place, unable to tear their gaze away from the living wax figure. She rose from her chair, her white gown trailing behind her like a ghostly mist. With each step, the room grew colder, and the air thick with an otherworldly presence. The young woman's laughter echoed through the chamber as she advanced toward the couple, her eyes burning with an unholy light. They knew they had stumbled upon something beyond their understanding, something ancient and malevolent. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The young woman returned to her seated pose, her eyes once again fixed on the flickering candlelight. The room grew warm, and the shadows retreated. The young couple fled from the museum, their faces pale and their hearts racing. They would never forget that night, nor would they ever return to the carnival. The Living Wax Museum remained, a dark and sinister secret hidden beneath the colorful tents and flickering lights. For the townsfolk, the whispers continued, and the legend of the living wax figures endured. They knew that the carnival brought with it a darkness that could not be explained, a darkness that lurked just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to come alive when no one was watching.